Hey everyone, it's Jill here. I wasn't sure what to talk about today. I didn't have anything particularly on my mind. Hopefully some people will join us. I did ask what was on people's minds in our Facebook group, the Peace of Mind group, and I did get a couple of questions or comments. So I'm going to, hi Krista. I'm going to answer, I'm going to talk about what Monique messaged. Hi Monique, good, you're on. She said she's interested in hearing about dealing with people who have actually caused harm, not only in thought. Well, first of all, everything actually comes from thought. Our experience of it comes from thought. I know that doesn't really make sense in this real world, but I'll just throw that out there, that the only way we can experience it, even in this real world, even physical things, it's still, our perception of it comes from thought in the moment, not thinking like we think of it, but through the power of thought. That's how we experience this entire world. Even if you ask a neuroscientist how our brains work, that's how it works. We interpret what's happening around in the world, but that's probably not important at this point. Hello, Jana or Yana. So, dealing with people who have actually caused harm. So I guess I don't know if it matters or not what type of harm. If we're talking physical harm, obviously get out of the situation, during a period. If somebody's about to cause you harm or you're afraid you're going to be harmed, of course, you should remove yourself from that situation as fast as you can. Psychological harm is I know a lot of people equate it as the same thing, but I'm not so sure about that because I think it's impossible for somebody to harm us psychologically because it's our perception. If somebody, like, it's words, it's how we interpret their words, and anyone can say anything to anybody, and it's only how the recipient interprets it as to whether it's harmful or not. So there's that, first off. It's all in how, you perceive it and you take it. So they can call you all kinds of names, they can do whatever, but there's no way that those words can actually harm you, because words are just words. They're just like my last video, blah blah blah. So those can't actually harm you, other than the meaning you give to them. So there's that. But let's say you felt harmed, or were even physically harmed in the past, let's say from somebody, and you still have to deal with this person. I get the impression, perhaps, Monique, that's what you're talking about. Let's say, for instance, and I don't know your situation, I'm just going to make one up, that it's an ex-husband, or ex-boyfriend or whatever, and you maybe still have to deal with that person because you have children together, let's say. So that's got to be a really difficult situation. I'm not been in that situation, but to me, that feels like that would suck. like that would suck big time. That's my meaning I'm giving it. But because that's hard. It's a person that you've had a lot of past with, and obviously the fact that if you got divorced or whatever, a lot of times that's not under good circumstances, yet you have children together, and he is the father of the child, the kids or whatever, and so you would want to do what's best for the children, get along, and also you don't want to speak badly of that person or even think badly of them for the kids' sake. So I don't know if that's your situation, but let's just use that as an example. So the thing with this understanding that we talk about here, and the most important thing is to get this understanding for yourself. The more that we know, like know, capital K-N, the more that we know where our experience is coming from, that is not outside things, that it's coming from thought in the moment, always the power, the amazing power of thought in the moment, and not situations. The more we find the evidence for that in our lives and know it for real, that it's 100% true, then we can start to see that more in others as well, rather than what we usually want to do when we first learn of this understanding is like this is what I did. I was like, oh wow, this is so cool. This would be so helpful for, like, say, my husband. This would be so helpful for my husband because he really needs this. If he knew this, his life would be so much better. I'm good, I thought. I'm good, but man, he could use this. My mother could use this. My friends could use this. Everybody could really benefit by understanding this stuff that I'm learning. I'm good. You know, this is the way I felt. I mean, I thought, yeah, it can help me, but mostly these other people need to know it, and that was my mistake. That was my big mistake, really. In the first year or more, or two even, that I understood this stuff, it totally did help me as well. But every time I thought these people need to know this, that wasn't actually helpful. They don't need to know this. And I know I'm going off track here with your question, but other people don't need to know it because it's all in us. Like when we know this, then other people can't hurt us, can't bother us, because we see, when we know that our thoughts are creating our entire experience of reality, then we also can see that's exactly what's happening with other people too. And this is where the knowing, like really knowing it, comes in. And that's why it took me, a year or two to really be able to get this in this way. To be able to look at other people and be like, oh, well, duh, of course they acted the way they did when they did whatever hurtful things they did, because they, too, like all of us, were and are living in the experience of their thought in the moment, always. And when we see that for them, oh my God, well, of course they acted that way. They've got all these thoughts and conditionings just like we do, like from how they were brought up. And they have that filter on their head that I talked about in another video, that's, filtering all the thought energy through their lenses, through their filters. So they're just acting out of their reality, their separate reality that's different from ours. And in fact, I would suggest, I can post a link to it if you haven't seen it yet, my the cable show, the Victim of Thought show number 2 that I did last month. I'll put a link to that to watch that, because it's all about separate realities, and it's about this same thing too. But so when we start to see that with this person that we have to deal with, let's say it's this ex-husband, but we have to see him for the kids, when we can look at the way he behaved in the past to us, to our children, to whomever, and see, well, of course he acted that way. He must have been really, really hurting to act that way, because people don't act horribly unless they have a lot of really horrible thoughts going on in their heads, and perhaps a lot of horrible things had happened to them throughout their life, or things they perceived as horrible even if maybe they weren't. And when we can see that for other people, what they did in the past makes sense. And even maybe the way they're acting, continuing to act now, because they don't know. But when we start to see them differently, because we now be like, well, duh, of course they acted like that. It gives us some compassion for them, even the most horrible person, because It's like, well, of course. I mean, think of how tortured they are with their thoughts that they could act that way towards other people, people that they claim to have loved. And it's like all you can do is feel for them, and feel, and feel compassion for them, and that changes the way you treat them, because those people are only, it seems to me, in my experience, people who act in hurtful ways are just seeking love, and they're not feeling it. They're looking to feel love from their spouses, their friends, their parents, whomever, and they're not getting it because people just like don't give love very easily, because they're all wrapped up in their own stuff. And so they're not feeling it, so they're frustrated as all hell, and they act in hurtful ways because they're not feeling love, just like us. That's what we do as well. And so if we see that that's really all they wanted, and we can forget about, not so much forget, but forgive the past, because there's not, they didn't know what they were doing. They were acting out of their thought in the moment because they were feeling unloved. And when we can see that in them, we can even be loving towards them. It doesn't mean you have to, be a partner with them or whatever, but you'll see them differently in your mind's eye, and because of that, you will naturally treat them differently. And at first, they won't get it, because they're just going to be so used to you being the way you always were with them, and it's, they're just going to assume, here we go again, she's going to say this, I'm going to say this, blah, 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 the blah, blah, blahs again, and you're going to do the dance. But if you have enough presence of mind and really see and forgive and see the goodness in that person, that, oh, poor them, of course they acted that way, and all they wanted was love. If you can see that when you're having to deal with that person, you're not going to fall into your same old conditioned habits that you used to do with them. And you're not going to play your part. They're going to try and bait you, even, not consciously, but they may say something and be expecting you to fight back like you always do. And when you don't, it's kind of going to be like, like they're not going to know. It's going to be all unconscious. But the relationship can change, because you're not going to have the same dynamic with them, because you're seeing them as a different person. You're having compassion, and perhaps even being able to give them a little bit of love, even if just from afar. And you can a relationship can magically change when this happens, just from you, one person. The other person doesn't have to know anything. You don't have to talk to them about it. You don't have to say anything. All you have to do is see that they're living in the feeling of their thought in the moment, and that's why they did what they did. That's why they're acting the way they do now. And they will change before your eyes if you seriously can see it for real, and just offer them love instead of hate, because we tend to hate those people who we believe have hurt us. Does this make sense? I see some things, but I don't always feel like I'm seeing all the questions that come on here. So I think that's probably enough for now. I also have other blog posts that talk about this. I will try and post some links to those as well. I hope this helps. Post any other additional questions or comments underneath, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.